Welcome to Beyond Fringe, an organic podcast discussing the topics beyond the fringe of this or any other reality. On this podcast, we explore cryptids, paranormal activity, lost legends, aliens, government conspiracies, historic mysteries, lost treasure, the edge of reality, and forbidden archaeology. I am the host, the Cryptid Guy, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Daniel Tiny Hurst. Together, we explore the world beyond fringe. How we doing tonight, Tiny?
Man, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm all right, brother. You having a good Memorial weekend?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm off today and tomorrow, so hopefully get some rest, get some yard work done,
I understand. Well, my friends, tonight we are discussing a topic that was requested by a listener of ours, and tonight's topic is going to be the Cherokee Death Cat, or the Wampus Cat, or the Catamount. He's got several different names, doesn't he, Tiny?
Yeah, he does. I'll tell you what, he's been around for a while, but there sure is a lack of information on him.
There is hardly any kind of information on this guy. This is probably, in my opinion, one of the most underrated cryptids in the Appalachian area. What would you think? What you think I'm right about that?
Yeah, I can agree with that. But you know what? It's also one of the more believable ones, if you think about it.
You see, I have my book. We'll get to that, but I think I know what it is. I think you know what it is too. But you know what? It's beyond fringe, man. We never know. We could be completely wrong. It could be anything, and that's why we never say we're experts at anything. Specifically when it comes to cryptids. Real quick, I'm just going to go over one of the legends of the Wampus Cat that I ran across, and I know you have several more than I do. So what I'll do, Tiny, is I'm just going to go over the one I got real quick, and then we'll talk about what you got, and we'll find out where the twain shall meet. All right?
All right.
So one of the origin legends of the Wampus Cat was that there was a beautiful Cherokee woman, and her husband would often leave a village to go be with the other men before they went on their hunting parties. And what they would do is they would do a ceremony that was just for the hunters. And what happened is they had their, I guess, their medicine person would be blessing everyone on the hunting party to endow them with the ability to hunt better. And this was all supposed to be done private. It was kind of like a Cherokee secret society for hunters. And what had happened is the wife was so nosy, she basically hid herself in the woods by covering up in the skin of a cougar. And she could see what was going on, but she couldn't really hear what was going on. So she kept creeping up closer and closer to the men that were undergoing the ceremony to hunt better. Well, she got too close, and the medicine man saw her, and for punishment, he turned her in to what we now call the Wampus Cat, or the Catamount, or the Death Cat. Now, I looked specifically for the term Cherokee Death Cat. Tiny, I couldn't find anything on that. The only thing I would pull up is a TV show. I couldn't find anything in the Mooney Chronicles, Myths of the Cherokee by James Mooney. I looked through that. I looked through other reference material I had. I couldn't find anything with the name Cherokee Death Cat. Could you?
And everything that I found led me right back to the Wampus Cat.
Right.
As far as the Death Cat name, I found a band. I found
a band. I saw that too.
Found the TV show that you're talking about, and just a couple other references. One other guy done a podcast, and kind of referenced it, but not much. And there was like a 2-minute little film where somebody had filmed a mountain lion and called it the Death Cat.
Well, the only pictures I saw of the Death Cat were from that TV show. Again, we don't have permission to use their name, so we're not going to. I have to say this. I like the show. It's a guilty pleasure. As an investigator and a cryptid detective, as I like to call our little organization here, Cryptid Detectives, we research and we investigate. So I get a kick out of the way to do things. It makes me laugh. But, you never know. some of it could have been what's the word I'm looking for? Could be in the realm of possibility, but you never know. The other thing about this one that I found strange was the appearance of this animal or this cryptid varies. Now, in the legend that I read, she was turned into basically a large cougar with 6 appendages. There was 4 for fighting, or I'm sorry, 4 for running and 2 for fighting and hunting. Did you come across that?
I did, and I come across a description where it's basically a mountain lion with a spiked ball on its tail. Came across the folklorist Vance Randolph actually described it, the Wampus cat, as a kind of amphibious panther who would leap into the water and swim like a colossal mink, in quotes.
Yeah, I did not see that at all. I saw a couple of things where they correlated the Wampus cat to like desert cryptid, and then where the Wampus cat was allegedly related to the White Death, which is an Alaskan cat that resembles a saber-toothed tiger, but I did not see that one.
There's a lot of different stories about the Wampus cat out there, and as far as the Cherokee legend itself goes, I found 3 different versions of that legend and one Anglo version of the legend. And all 3 of the Cherokee legends are very similar. The one you told, the same one, I found it, but they said that the Cherokee woman was jealous of her husband and thought maybe he was, sneaking in some other tents instead of going hunting, so she followed him. And every Cherokee story, Cherokee legend, and I would imagine it's the same for any tribe, just the first people in general, all of their stories always have some sort of moral.
Oh yeah, and they're usually, there's a good lesson to be learned in their stories, and that's why I'm a big fan of Cherokee folklore and mythology, mythos, and that's included in that as well. But the thing I had a problem with, and I can't correlate this to 100% Cherokee myth or legend. I can't say where this is a definitive Cherokee myth or legend. Can you?
No, and all the stories that I've found, everything comes up around the 1920s,
Mm-hmm.
and they go everywhere from Carolina to Tennessee to Georgia, just kind of everywhere.
I saw one as far north as West Virginia. And then the thing that impressed me the most, and I'm not trying to circle back to what we've talked about so many times before, but in 1964, there was a sighting of this animal or this cryptid. But where was it here? I'll have it for you in a second. I wrote it down. And where did I put it? Here we go. There was a sighting of a Wampus cat in North Carolina in Johnson County near the New Use River Basin in the spring of 1964. But the reports weren't of a large cat, Tiny. You know what they were of?
What?
A large ape-like creature roaming the woods near Dean's Crossroads, located on US 70, about halfway between Smithfield and Princeton. This also ended up in the Goldsboro News. And what they did was they called this animal a Wampus cat, and the name stuck. So a Wampus cat is also another name for, guess who? Our pal, Bigfoot.
Yep, and that's why you hear some of the old timers call them Wampus.
Right. Now, I had a friend of ours describe, and this is our mutual friend of ours who's going to be on the show at a later time, but his granddaddy used to call them catamounts.
Yep.
And catamount is also another name for the cryptid. So this guy's got a lot of monikers, man. He's got a lot of people calling him a lot of different things.
Well, and as far as the Wampus cat goes, I found that In Missouri, they call it the gallywampus. Arkansas, it's the whistling wampus. And of course, here in the Appalachians, it's, just plain old wampus or wampus cat. I've found that some people describe it as a half dog, half cat creature that can run erect or on all fours. Now, what does that sound like to you?
Sounds an awful lot like our other hairy little friend, the dog man, doesn't it?
It sure does. So the question is, are there a lot of misidentifications between, dog man and just our big cat population, which people, for whatever reason, I don't understand why, but they like to say that in this area we don't have mountain lions or panthers, big cats other than like bobcats. And I don't understand why people like to say that, because they're here.
Well, I tell you, I think honestly, Tiny, and we were talking prior to the show, I think these are just really large eastern cougars. I think that's, and people don't see them much because they're so elusive. But I'm the same mind you are. I believe we have these animals. I think that's what they are. The reports that I've seen where these animals become nuisance is, a cat will attack a specific way. They usually attack the back of the neck. Am I right on that? Is that what you would?
Well, they tend to go for the neck, whether it's
the neck or the back of the neck, anywhere around the neck, because they like to strangle and suffocate. And a lot of these farm animals that were reported attacked by the wampus beast or the swamp, or the wampus cat, they're all, attacked on the neck, and their throats are usually ripped out. So that, to me, that does say big cat, because they do attack in a different, they have a different MO than say like, a large predatorial canid. But that doesn't mean that's not what's doing the damage. So maybe it is a misidentification. What do you think about that? You think we could be possibly correct on that, or you think we're way off topic?
I think it's entirely possible that it's misidentification. But here's a thought too. I'm not sure when we started really importing exotic animals, but if anybody's watched Netflix lately, there's a documentary out there talking about big cats being imported.
Yeah.
And if you really think about it, somebody, some overly wealthy person in the 20s may have imported a lion. That lion gets huge, and they're like, oh God, I can't take care of it anymore, or it escapes. It wouldn't be hard for something like that to live in our woods.
And you know what, Tiny? I'll one up you. How about it wasn't a lion? How about it was a liger?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, and if memory serves, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, but isn't a liger, it's the father's a tiger and the father's a lion and the mother's a tiger. And they get much bigger than both of those cats do normally.
Yeah, they get enormous.
They're huge. So what if there was a breeding population of those out there? I mean, I could be wrong. I think they say that ligers can't breed, but what if there was an offshoot and then one of them, something happens. We don't know. It could be anything, but that could be the basis for the original legend. And then, some bigger cats came in, some bigger cougars. They're blaming the cougars for what someone saw 40 years ago. So I agree. That's actually a really good example because let's be honest, they were probably having live circuses coming in off the train lines in maybe, what, you think 1870s, 1880s? Probably post-Civil War.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there could have been a bunch of cats escaping. We don't know. And I agree with you. If you're going to be a wild animal, Appalachia's the place to be.
Yeah. I mean, and it's feasible, especially with, caves and such. It gets cold, head into a cave, you're going to survive if you've ate enough. There's plenty of food, especially back then. The food was so much more available back then than it is now.
Well, even today, there's more whitetail. What kind of deer? The white-tailed deer. There's more. There's more deer than there's ever been in the country, in the history of the country. So there's an enormous, food source right there.
Yeah. So you could you could say if, okay, so a lion or a liger. The issue with the liger theory, though, is ligers are sterile. So there can't actually be a breeding pair of ligers.
Okay.
You only get those from the combination of a lion and tiger. But what if, and I'm by far no biologist, but what species of cats can actually crossbreed? And what
That's
would
true. I mean, suppose you had a lion get loose. Now, can he crossbreed with a cougar or panther, or I don't know. Again, but that could be an explanation for what people are seeing. Because the picture I saw that is supposedly the Cherokee Death Cat, and I say the word supposed, and I'm using air quotes here. To me, it looked like, kind of looked like a cross between a panther and a tiger. That's what it looked like to me. But I don't know.
Yeah, and there's a very large lack of any sort of evidence for this thing. It's completely feasible that it's out there. But now we've got to go, this is beyond fringe, so we've got to go with the paranormal thought process of it too.
Here it comes.
They talk about it being cursed. They say that, I've read in a couple different places, if you see it, if it looks you in the eye, you're cursed, you're going to die. Now, of course, logically speaking, my thought process on that, if you're looking an 8-foot cat in the eye, you're probably dead regardless.
I agree. I mean, I don't think people realize how big, like even a normal, tiger. I was watching this thing on YouTube. It was like something called it was about animal attacks in zoos, like where people are standing too close to like the glass and stuff.
Yeah.
And you see these things, like there was this tiger, like this guy had his back turned and this tiger's like stalking him, like he's going to attack him. And then he jumps at him and then like he hits the glass and he bounces off. But they're huge. Like, so when you see one, and that's just a regular tiger. So if you have something bigger than that, I mean, you're right. It's game over. If you're close enough to look at that thing eye to eye, you'd see ya. Bye. I hope everything's in order because it's done.
So, and going the supernatural way, I found one other legend, one other Cherokee legend, supposedly. And I say supposedly because I'm not completely convinced it's a Cherokee legend. In my opinion, I don't know if you agree with me, but the Wampus cat, the Death Cat, whatever you want to call it, I think it needs some more research, and I think we're going to have to go a little bit different way with the research than what we normally do. We're going to have to dig into some oral histories.
I agree 100% with you because I am not convinced that this is a Cherokee legend at all. And the reason why I say that is because there is really no evidence that I can find, that I have seen. I have heard about the Cherokee Death Cat in the past. I've heard legends, I've heard reports, but there's just no tangibility. It's not like looking up, other myths and legends and getting a lot of information on those. And the other thing is, if people are listening to this and they have information, please contact us. Let us know.
Without doubt.
I mean, because I would love, if someone has seen one of these things or someone's had a friend or a relative or anyone that's had a run-in with a Cherokee Death Cat or a Wampus cat, please call us. We would love to have someone on the show to talk about this. Yeah, that's the difference between us and most people is like we're willing to listen to people and learn from their experiences. We don't claim to be experts with anything cryptid, paranormal, or supernatural. We're learning every day. And that's why we want to take what we've learned and help other people with it. And this is how we do it. We learn from people that have experienced it. I'm sorry, Ty, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all right, man. The thing is, too, with something like the Wampus cat, the Death Cat, whatever you want to call it, there's so much tangibility, so much about the lore that makes it believable that it's nothing more than just, your average big cat that's misidentified, that when somebody does have an encounter and they come forward with it, people are going to dismiss it so much that the sightings and the reports just aren't out there like they are with, say Bigfoot or Dogman, something that's more hard to believe, because it's harder when somebody says, oh, I saw a Bigfoot or Dogman, to say that you misidentified it. You can say Bigfoot's a bear all day long, but there's identifiers that say different. But with a cat like this, somebody goes, I saw this giant cat in the woods, and it scared me to death. Or this giant cat's taking my livestock. Well, you're automatically going to say, oh, well, it's a mountain lion, it's a cougar, it's whatever. And it's completely believable in this area, so it's dismissed. So what might be happening, we're not finding this information because it's not out there, because people are dismissing it.
Well, I think that's a really good point. I think you're right there, because the truth of the matter is, if they did see like a big cat, a large cat, even something lion sized or bigger, what they're going to do is chalk it up to, oh, it's a big cougar.
Right.
Because no one wants to admit they're seeing some kind of cryptid that they can't explain. And the other thing is, try to explain that to like, the natural, the DNR or something like that. Oh, hey, there's this massive lion on my property and it's killing all my sheep and blah, blah, blah. Or try saying that to the sheriff or the police or whatever agency. They're not going to listen to you for 2 seconds. They're going to chalk it up as a cougar attack or a wolf or a coyote or something like that, or bear. And they're going to, oh, you mistakenly saw a bear. I think bear is probably the most commonly blamed suspect for cryptid activity. It's always the bear, isn't it, Tiny?
It is. Poor bear gets blamed for everything.
Now that's why he's in a bad mood. He can't walk down the street without being blamed for something.
I thought it was because he had all them teeth and no way to brush them.
This is true. He's a very upset. Well, I mean,
hopefully somebody got that water boy reference out there.
I think so. And I thought that was alligators. Wasn't the water boy thing alligators?
It was, yeah. But, it kind of fit. So I thought,
I
nobody got that. My feelings are hurt, y'all. Just so
I think someone will get it. We have our audience, if anything, we can say they are blessed with a good sense of humor because they listen to us. So
yeah, they have to be.
For those of you listening right now, thank you. And again, thank you for listening to us. But Tiny, I got to say, I don't normally say anything like this because I don't like putting blanket statements out there, because usually, when I do that, I'm proven wrong, which is good, because if I'm wrong, I need to know I'm wrong. But I don't think that the name Cherokee Death Cat is a real name. I think it was made up by either a TV producer or someone in the media sector. What about you? What do you think?
I can't find enough reference to that name to really say that it's, an old folklore myth. And y'all, if you're listening and we're wrong, let us know in the comments, call us, email us, let us know, give us the information we're missing.
And, just to put a footnote on what Tiny just said, under every one of our podcast listings is all of our contact information. It's all there. So feel free to call us, contact us, email us. If we're wrong, please help us, because this is one of these situations where this is probably going to be a lot more information out there on the word of mouth route. So, and what that means is it'll all be like so-and-so's cousin saw this and here's what he said. So-and-so's neighbor saw this and this is what he said. And what you have to do is you have to listen to all that, take it into account, and then try to correlate what seems to be the underlying anomaly that's occurred. Well, so that's sometimes it's easier to do stuff that way.
Yeah. Well, I think, like I said, I think it definitely warrants more research, but it's going to have to go a different angle than what we normally do.
I agree.
So let me backtrack a little bit. And one of the legends that I found about it, my favorite actually, because it adds a little paranormal spin on it, involves an evil demon called Ewa. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. It's Ewah.
Is that Ewa? Something like that?
Ewa. I'm honestly not sure.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But it's the spirit of madness, apparently. And this story is very local to us. And the spirit had been terrorizing the village. Excuse me, y'all. I'm tired. The village of Etowah, or Choda. if I'm pronouncing that right, depending on the version, which Etowah is not far from where we live, right here in North Carolina. And the village shamans and war chiefs, they all called for a meeting about this, what to do about it. And they decided to send their strongest, most able warrior out to get this thing. And they decided to do this after many of their warriors and hunters had come back mad. They were supposedly kind of black-eyed, kind of like zombies, just not there, not themselves anymore, just gone into madness. And this demon would it would drive them mad with a glance. It would feast on the dreams of the Cherokee children. And they decided that it had to be killed. So they sent this warrior out to kill this demon. And he wasn't able to. The demon turned him mad. And he had the finest weapons and the best blessings that they could give. And it just didn't work. His name apparently was Standing Bear, by the way. His wife's name was Running Deer. And he came back into the camp screaming, clawing his eyes, and with a single look, Running Deer knew that he was mad. And she decided that, that just wasn't going to work for her. And she went to the shamans to try and find out what to do. Well, the shamans in turn gave her a booger mask. And it was of a bobcat's face. And told her that the spirit of a mountain cat could stand against this demon. But she had to surprise the demon. And the war chiefs gave her a special black paste, rubbed it all over her body to hide her scent so she could sneak up on it a little bit better. And so she went looking for this thing, and as she was stalking it, it snuck up on her.
Pulled a double back burn, huh?
Yep. The thing was, it was disguised as a fox. And so y'all, sorry for being a little bit slow. I'm looking at my notes here as I'm telling so I can get it right. So she snuck back up on him. They had this little kind of dance and snuck back up on him. And the demon saw the mask and began to tear at itself as the spirit of the mountain cat turned its powerful magic back onto itself. So the demon, he fell into the pool of running water, and Running Deer turned on her heel and ran fast as she could back to the village. When she arrived home, she sang a song to herself, a quiet song of grief for her husband, but also for the demon's banishment. The shamans then declared Running Deer the spirit talker and home protector. And it said that Running Deer's spirit still inhabits the Wampus cat. And that she continues her eternal mission of watching her tribe's lands and to protect the people from demons that hide in those dark places.
Well, that's different. I mean, that's a much different story than what I found.
That,
Where was that under folklore or
yeah,
mythology?
it
And
was under some folklore that I found.
was
And
that definitely Cherokee?
supposedly, I
Well, that's
mean,
cool. I like I said, Tiny. I wish I had found that. That's actually a pretty cool story. It's kind of like it's it's one of those stories where it's definitely got the moral in it.
yeah,
You know, you never underestimate anyone, and anyone can be a hero, kind of thing. I mean, that's a pretty good story. As far as mythos legend goes, it's pretty good. I still have yet to hear anything that makes me think that this is not a cougar or a misidentified animal.
I kind of, by the description, to me, it almost sounds like an oversized bobcat. So,
I
the
mean, that's very
bobcat,
possible. Those things get pretty big. You never know. And again, we don't know about the mutations or the crossbreeding possibilities or any of that stuff. I mean, that's just not our, we don't know. That's not our realm of knowledge. So there's not either way. We can't comment on it because we don't know. So
yeah.
I think that's in the realm of possibility.
I think to sum it up, I think that, in my opinion, this is just my humble opinion, I think that a really big cat out there doing its thing, killing livestock, completely and utterly feasible. As far as the legend of the death cat or the wampus cat, there is so little information that I'm not sure if it's an actual cryptid or not. I'm not even convinced it's a Cherokee legend wholeheartedly. I think
agree.
it's gonna take more research to find out. But as far as it actually existing, I think it's completely feasible.
Oh, I think it can definitely exist, but you know what I think too? I think it's definitely probably an eastern cougar that's probably big or just some kind of version thereof. Or it could be misidentification of a dog man on all fours or a Sasquatch on all fours. Because let's not forget, they go quadruped pretty quick. They can go from quadruped to bipedal, in a snap. So if you're seeing something, let's just say you see this massive wolf, but the way they're as muscular as they are and as big as they are, that could totally be mistaken for a cat, a big cat. And if you've heard these legends about the wampus cat, your brain is automatically going to try tying that in with something.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these sightings are probably misidentifications. Because
Well,
you could, yeah. I mean, and honestly, I if that cryptid is out there, it would not surprise me. I'm the same mind you are, because again, anyone to say, oh, that doesn't exist or there's no way that's possible, and that's usually when you find it.
and then
But
there
I'm sorry.
again,
Yeah.
if it's a dogman sighting, a lot of people have not heard about dogman. Dogman's just now becoming kind of mainstream, like Sasquatch has been for years, but dogman's just now coming about. So if you see something like that, you're gonna relate it to something which would be a big cat.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't
Because there's no way a
automatically,
wolf's ever going to be that big.
right?
I mean, it's definitely an interesting topic, and I think we're definitely going to have to do more research on this. Again, if anyone's listening and they know anything about this, please feel free to contact us. And if you have anyone that's experienced, the wampus cat, catamount, the Cherokee Death Cat, whatever you want to call it, we'd love to hear their story.
Yeah, most definitely.
I'm sorry.
Really, any cryptid or strange experience you've had, we'd love to hear about it, because there's a lot of little known cryptids out there that people don't talk about.
Oh, yeah. It's not just Bigfoot and Dogman. There's all kinds of other stuff out there. I mean, I recently, and this one blew me away. I am not a big believer in goat man. I just don't see it. And the reason why I say that is, on a scientific principle, I just don't understand how that would work. Dog man, that makes sense to me. Cynocephali. It's in the historic records. Bigfoot, Gigantopithecus, possible missing link between man and ape. I can see that. To me, that makes sense. But, like a goat hybrid man that's, a carnivore, I just don't know. It doesn't make sense. But I heard a goat man report that was not too far from here, Tiny, and these people were terrified. I mean, they were legitimately terrified.
Oh, it's understandable.
And they had absolutely nothing to gain from this story. So, you know, and the reason why I say that is because you just never know. You know, and then that's the thing. I mean, this death cat could be an undiscovered species of, you know, North American lion, or it could be a throwback to the Ice Age. You know, it could be a smaller version of a saber-toothed tiger. You know, we don't know. You know, and like I said, the White Death report, that's Alaska's version of the catamount, is basically a description of a white saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
So who's to say that's not true? You know,
Well, let's go a little conspiracy theory with that. With all of the genetic engineering that our government's doing, I mean, they've said they're bringing back.
It's global, Tiny. It's not just our government. It's every government.
True.
That includes North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Russia. I mean, everyone. Everyone's in genetics. Japan is doing genetic research.
And
you know?
probably, like Japan's probably way ahead of us.
Well, apparently, from what I read an article that said Japan will have a woolly mammoth, and I think they said 5 years.
Yeah, well,
and that wasn't a new article. That was just one of those things I read. So chances are, my firm belief is, you know, and again, this is the conspiracy guy coming at me. Anything you read in the media, you can't trust anyway. But if they say something will happen in a year or two, that means they've probably had it for a decade.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to what I've said too many times, that movies and books, things like that, in a lot of cases are doing nothing but desensitizing us and preparing us for things. Hello, Jurassic freaking Park.
I agree. And that's from the 90s, man. And they're still making those things.
So, and I read that our government is planning on bringing back the the woolly rhinoceros,
the woolly rhino, the woolly mammoth, and there was one. I think there was something like a woolly buffalo. Am I wrong on that? Am I thinking something else? But wasn't it was
some sort of bovine?
Yeah, it was some kind of like Neanderthalic buffalo thing. I don't know what it was. Again, and here's the thing with me, Tiny. Let me ask you. I personally don't have a problem with it. I think it'd be kind of cool. What do you think? Do you have a problem with it?
But the thing is, they're going to take it too far. Like, you know, and they said that they're going to try and bring back dire wolves to help with like deer population and stuff. Okay, that's kind of cool. I would like to see a dire wolf. However, what happens when they get out of control?
Well, and that's the problem, Tiny, because they talk about, here's my, again, and this, I have no basis for saying this except for the many years of research and investigation I've done in things, different things, not just cryptids, not just the paranormal, not just the supernatural, but, you know, I like to take, I hate saying this as an excuse, but or I hate saying this as an example, but if you take the JFK assassination, all right, that happened in '63. They didn't call it a conspiracy till I think 1979. And then they finally admitted that there had to have been other people involved with it. And then they shut it down for 50 years.
Right.
Now, why would you do that? Because people knew what was going on and they wanted everyone to be gone when they finally could open up the books on it. Right. All right. Same thing with the UFOs. We're just now starting to get, and again, for those of you who don't listen to us much, and this is just me, and I'm not speaking for Tiny, this is just a cryptic guy saying this, I consider alien life forms, UFOs, all that, to be under the cryptid category. And here's why. Because it's an undiscovered life form or an undocumented life form. All right. It doesn't mean that you can have that classification and be, you know, thousands of years ahead of us technology-wise. But for us right here on planet Earth, if it's an undocumented life form, to me, it's a cryptid. And that's just me.
They might think of us as cryptids.
They might think of us as bugs, man. They might not even think of us as anything. So let's be honest. But the realistic truth is, you know, in that movie Jurassic Park, the first one, you know, there's that part where Jeff Goldblum says that, you know, genetics is the most awesome weapon, you know, released on mankind. You haven't really seen anything with genetics. You know, there isn't a whole zoo out there that was genetically modified or something that, you know, you see GMO food and that's about it. Can you think of anything that's been genetically modified that you can talk about or see on a daily basis?
Other than they've started cloning meat in test tubes and selling it to us, and they don't have to label it.
Okay, but see, to me, that's cloning. That's not genetic. I'm talking about like bringing something back. I mean, like they've been talking about doing that for decades now. Where's the proof? You know, where's all the genetically modified creatures that, you know, have gone extinct? Are they just creating breeding populations so they can just unleash them? I mean, what do they do?
Well, you know what they're probably doing is they're probably trying to militarize them.
Well, they're going to weapon. Well, yeah, of course. I was just about to say, the chances are they're probably weaponizing it. Now,
can you imagine our soldiers riding into battle on a freaking T-Rex?
oh, dude. Oh, heck yeah, man. That'd be pretty bad. That would definitely scare the enemy.
Yeah, trouble is the enemy's probably got them too.
Yeah, well, they probably have. I think that's personally one of the reasons why we haven't seen a whole lot of it.
We probably make them and sell them is what we do.
Well, you know, again, you just never know, because the truth of the matter is these creatures probably exist. I'm sure that you can't tell me they haven't been able to bring stuff back yet. You know, I was looking at watching this TV show, and the guy was looking for woolly mammoth DNA and in Siberia, and they literally have like a baby woolly mammoth intact. And you're telling me they can't get a genetic code out of that? Come on, man. I'm not buying that. They've had it for years. They've had these things for years. I just don't buy anything they're selling. I think they've had these things. I think for some reason, they're keeping it on the low. I don't know why. And, you know, maybe they are trying to, you know, militarize them, weaponize them. Of course, that wouldn't surprise me.
Well, and what they're probably going to do is they're not going to just bring them back. They're going to modify and bring them back. They're going to try and make them bigger and better and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and they're going to need less food, or they're going to be able to eat anything, and they don't have any, you know. That's the problem. And they're going to change the entire system on the animal, and it's not going to have to worry about starving or anything like that. It'll be able to eat anything. You know, that's what scares me about stuff like that. And one of the reasons I say that, and you know, we spend as cryptozoologists and researchers and, you know, cryptid detectives, we spend a lot of time in the deep, dark woods. And, you know, Tiny, let's be honest. Would you be surprised, really, really surprised, if one day you and I are out doing an investigation, say we're just 6 or 7 miles in the Bermuda Triangle, one of our areas that we call it, and you look over and I say, hey, Tiny, doesn't that look like a great big rhinoceros covered in hair?
Honestly, no, it really wouldn't.
It would not surprise me.
But of course, you know, we're out here looking for Bigfoot and Dogman. So
exactly. Now, how funny would it be if Bigfoot was riding the rhinoceros like a horse?
I could see that.
See, in my head, that works. That works in my head, and that's not right. That's probably that's just probably way out there.
Yeah.
But it's not for me. It's not the realm possibility.
Well, and you know, I don't believe that Bigfoot is like a genetically engineered.
Oh no, we get around. You and I both.
I can see like a Dogman being something that they've genetically engineered and they're letting out to see what it does. You know, I could see that. I could see that with Goatman or Lizardman or any of these, you know, like lesser known kind of cryptids. I could see it being something that they've tinkered with in a lab. But is it? I don't know. That's what we're trying to find out.
Well, and here's the other thing. Like, I'm a firm believer that cynocephaly has been around for thousands and thousands of years. That's nothing new. But let's just take it this way. Let's say that the governments of the world, for whatever reason, know these creatures exist. They have grabbed these creatures and done things and researched with them and done genetic experiments on them and then upgrading them, allegedly, to say like the 3 types we usually see today, which are what we consider the alpha, beta, the Charlie type. Because let's be honest, what we call an alpha dog man is just massive. I mean, we get reports of those things 12 foot tall, just they look like a comic book villain. They're so muscular, they're just massive.
Now,
And
since you're talking about that classification, I don't think that's anything that we've talked about yet. So go ahead and explain that.
well, we consider what we have, and this is just Asheville Cryptid and Paranormal Society. It's just something that we came up with while we were doing a lot of dogman research, and we noticed that we were getting primarily 3 different reports on sizes. So we just went ahead and named them Alpha, Beta, and Charlie, and this is our own classification. The alpha one is just massive. It is just a massive werewolf-looking creature that looks kind of like the Van Helsing werewolf, just twice the size. They're just huge. They very rarely have a tail, and if they have a tail, it's a very short bob-looking tail. The beta type is about 7 to 9 foot tall, and it's a smaller version of the alpha type. And those have been reported with and without full tails. And then there's the Charlie type that basically looks like a great big dog walking on its back legs with shoulders, but they're not as much. They look more canid than anything. So the first 2, the alphas and the betas, resemble what we would basically call a Van Helsing looking werewolf. If anyone's ever seen that movie, or just a werewolf, just a massive creature, but they're not supernatural, they're not paranormal. They're a werewolf all the time, or they're a dog person all the time, and they're just, some are bigger and some are smaller. A lot like the type 1 and type 2 Sasquatches. The Patty type Sasquatch that's the big one, and they tend to be bigger and less aggressive. And realistically, all the reports on the alpha style dogman I've ever gotten, they've never attacked anyone that I've heard of. That's usually the beta and the Charlie. The smaller ones are usually the most violent ones. So, maybe there's a capacity for higher brain functions with the bigger varieties of dogmen. I don't know, but it's possible.
I've heard stories of the bigger ones, those alphas being a little bit more, what's the word I want to use?
They like to, those are the ones you would consider the crypto terrorist. They just like to scare the crud out of people.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that'll point at you or smile or scratch your window glass.
Yeah.
Those are and they never really do anything. They for some reason, and I personally believe those stories, and here's why: because I think it's their entertainment. I think they have the cognitive functions to think, hey, this is funny, let's do this to these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my thoughts on that.
Well, and you kind of see stuff like that in the animal world anyway.
Oh yeah.
A lot of predators play with their prey before they
cats. Look at cats. Cats are notorious for that.
I mean, I can believe it, but like you said, it's the bigger ones that are in those type of reports.
Yeah. And those are also the ones that they'll, I got a report once, or I heard a story, I can't remember, I'd have to go check the archives, but it was either a report or a story we got a couple of years ago where there was 4 or 5 of these alpha dogmen, and they surrounded a house, and they were tapping on the windows on all the sides of the house to basically distract everyone in there. Well, the other one basically picked up, it was either a couple of hogs or a cow or something, and it was a distraction. So, these people or these creatures can work in conjunction. They're very intelligent, and I think they definitely have the ability to reason. So if they can do that, they probably have a sense of humor.
There's that one story that you and I both really like.
Oh yeah,
the guy found the puppy.
Yeah.
So I mean, and if they are canid, we know that dogs are smart. So it would.
Oh yeah.
It would kind of, you would think it would play over just.
Well, again, the bigger the dog, the probably the smarter. I mean, I think you, and I could be wrong on this, Tiny. I don't know, but I think, you know what, they use golden retrievers and German shepherds for, like, you know, seeing eye dogs and emergency rescue dogs and stuff like that. You very rarely will see a Chihuahua as a rescue dog.
That's because
Now,
Chihuahuas are evil.
yeah, well, that's because they're small and mean. You know what I'm saying? So maybe the larger the animal, the better the brain capacity. So maybe that falls into the cryptids. The larger the cryptid, maybe the better the brain capacity.
Right. Well, you remember me telling you the story growing up in Tennessee where I had something tap on the window, didn't you?
Yes, I do. I remember that very well.
That tapping, that was a definite claw or like long fingernail or something. And it was the top corner of that window, and that was easily 7.5, 8 feet off the ground.
See, the more I think about that story and that specific location, I'm convinced that was a dog man, Tiny. I'm convinced. Specifically because of all those reports we've had recently in that area.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that's a dog man, because that's almost right next to Dogman Central for us too. So it's very possible. And I would not, for those who don't, we're talking about, I believe Tiny discussed this on one of our original podcasts. It was either Beyond Fringe or Fringe Investigations. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be posting all of our older podcasts. We're going to be putting those on the Asheville Cryptid Paranormal website. And that reminds me, Tiny, we have updated that. So for those of you who are Tiny fans, and I know there's a lot of them out there, Tiny's got his own section under the Cryptid Guy logo in the Asheville Cryptid and Paranormal Society, and you can see all of Tiny's, some, it's not all, because if we had to put all of Tiny's press on there, we wouldn't have room. But there's some of Tiny's cooler research and press moments. I believe it was CNN, right, Tiny?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was when Tiny was on CNN. There was times he was quoted in different newspapers, and we like doing that simply because it shows people that, you know, we do this, we believe this, and, you know, we mean what we say and we say what we mean, and that we follow through with it. So if anyone wants to read more about Tiny and his thoughts on stuff, you can get that on the Asheville Cryptid Paranormal Society.com.
And of course, feel free to just ask.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. And the other thing is, what I've done is, if you do go to our website, there's a little button now I put on there where if you want us to contact you or you want to tell us a quick story, something like that, you just click on that and you just put your name in there, your contact information, and hit send, and it automatically comes to us. So it's real quick, and it's kind of a cool little widget that we put on there. So when you're looking up the website and you want to see what we think about stuff or some of the things we've been quoted as saying, that's where you can do it. The other thing we're doing too is, you know, for those of you who haven't listened, Tiny is a jack of all trades. And he's very, very, very astute with the digital equipment, like recording and all this. He's just real good at it. And a couple of years ago, we did a symposium at the REI. We tend to do those every year. We have not done it this year simply because of the COVID, but I'm hoping they will let us do it again when all this passes. Now, Tiny, are we still going to be putting that on the website?
Yeah, we'll throw it up on the website, and we'll throw it up on this YouTube channel too.
All right, cool. So what we're doing is we had, how long was that? I honestly don't remember.
It was close to an hour.
All right, so we've got an hour of some information and a symposium we did at REI, and I think the video came out great. I think it was real clear. It was just, and it's just one of those things where we just like sharing the information that we've learned. And what we'll do too is I will post the PowerPoint that I gave somewhere on the website. You know, and again, we don't have secrets. If we find information, we post it, and it's up to you, the listener, to decide if you believe or not. You know, that's not up to us. We're here giving you the information we find. And the other thing is we don't need to make stuff up. This place is weird enough. Would you agree with that, Tiny?
Oh, most definitely. You know, the experiences I've had over the years, I have memories pop up of stuff that happened that, you know, because I'm thinking of something else that I don't remember, like, you know, telling you about the car disappearing. The other day, I remember that I had a Bigfoot yell at me.
You know what's funny, and I wasn't going to bring this up, but I'm gonna bring this up, Tiny.
That Christian. Why
You
don't
and
you go ahead
I,
and bring that up, man?
huh?
I said, why don't you go ahead and bring that up?
No, there's something when you were just mentioning that. Tiny and I were talking about 2 weeks ago about how he was remembering something that he just hadn't thought of in years. And for some reason, I was driving home um, from work, and I started thinking about some of the strange stuff that I don't really talk about because there wasn't really much to discuss. But then I had remembered something that had happened to me when I was a much younger, much leaner, much more in shape cryptid kid. That's what I called myself back then. Before I was the cryptid guy, I was just a cryptid kid. In college, I don't think I've never told you this story, Tiny. So this is going to be a new one.
Oh, good.
And this is pretty much what I would put in the supernatural realm. This is a true story, and this happened to me. I was bouncing in a very popular nightclub in Florida. That's all I'm going to say about the location. And it was a Saturday night, and Saturday night tended to be a more busy night. And we had a rule that you could not have glass on the dance floor. Now I know you did bouncing, Tiny, so and I'm sure you probably had that same rule. You can't have glass on the dance floor because it's a safety issue. Someone could drop it, and then boom, you know what I'm saying? It's an issue.
Yeah.
So I remember we had something called the Eagle's Nest. And it was just a higher point. It was basically almost like on the top. There was a little set of stairs, and it was kind of like overlooking the dance floor. And there was 5 bouncers, including myself. And one of them was a very close friend of mine who actually lives in North Carolina too now. And there was 3 other guys. It was me, him, and 3 other guys. And there was just this weird feeling. I remember that more than anything, Tony. It was just a weird feeling that night. Like you knew there was some kind of impending doom. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Gut
you
feeling.
bounce for a long time. You know when something's going to go down.
Yeah.
And it was just that feeling. And everyone, all the guys were on edge. I remember talking about it before we even started because we didn't really even start till 9:30. I mean, that's when we show up to work, and then we had to do some setup, and then, letting people in. So I mean, things don't really start going till about 1 or 2. Well, maybe one in the morning. That's when things are really thumping and bumping back then. And I remember thinking all night, there's just some weird juju happening. It's just nothing felt right. Well, there was this woman that came in, and I don't know how to explain it, but she was just, there was something off. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know what cued me because no one else was seeming to pick up on that. And again, where I was looking down, I could see everything. Well, she had a glass with her, and we didn't have walkie-talkies. We had these little flashlights, and what we would do, they were scuba diving flashlights, the small ones. I've shown you like the ones I still carry when we go out on investigations. Right. And what we would do to get the attention of the other bouncers, we just flash them in the face real quick, and they'd look over and we'd point to what we're seeing. It was just one of those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And I pointed to my buddy, and I showed him, I was pointing out the girl, and I made the motion like we had a little sign. It's like, someone drinking something that was like, that told all the other guys that someone's got glass on the dance floor.
Right.
We point out the general area. Well, my buddy goes down there and he can't find her. She just kind of, and the truth of the matter is I have no idea because when I was trying to communicate with her, she like vanished. Boom. So I'm thinking nothing of it. And about 10 minutes later, I see her again. She doesn't have any glass, but there's some guy trying to dance with her. And I don't know exactly what happened, but she did something to him. And he was just kind of standing there like a zombie. And then he just drops on the floor. And like I said, there's all kinds of people. Well, 2 of the other guys saw this. So they come running over. I start going down there. And Tiny, to this day, I still don't understand what happened. I'm getting over to where everyone else is. And the way this dance floor was set up, there was all this. There were sheets of glass like encasing the floor, and on one side was mirrors. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
old club look.
Yeah.
Apparently, what had happened is we thought she was robbing the guy that was on the floor because she was on top of him. So one of the bouncers grabs her, and all of a sudden, this woman had to maybe have been 5'4", 5'5", maybe 110 pounds, soaking wet, maybe. And the bouncer that grabbed her used to work in the wrestling venue. He was a big dude. He was the biggest bouncer that worked there. He was huge. He had to have his we used to wear tuxedo shirts, and he had to have his tuxedo shirts custom made. Or there was something. We used to make fun of him for it. While I'm coming around the back, I think he's taking her out side to call the police for what we think is a robbery, or or she drugged him and then robbed him. That's what we thought was happening.
Right.
As I'm about 8 feet away, all of a sudden, I watch her pick him up by the neck and throw him across the room. Now, while that's happening, while he's up in the air, someone slams into me and spins me around. And there's this huge mirror right there. And I look in the mirror and I see the other bouncer in the air, but I see no reflection of what's holding him in the air. And I turn back around and I can see this woman holding him and throwing him. Then another guy basically tries to tackle her, and he was probably 6'3", 245 pounds, solid piece of muscle. He basically just gets slapped to the ground. She goes over and bites him on the cheek, and I turn around to go help my buddy, and then the other two guys are coming, and she basically just pushes everyone out of her way and walks out the front door.
Holy crap.
We never, ever, ever got a picture, a video, nothing. Nothing ever came. There was a security system, didn't work on it, we couldn't, nothing. So everyone kind of calms down. It wasn't a big deal. We've had stuff like this happen before. We ended up having to take one of the guys to the hospital. Actually, it wasn't a hospital. They took him, I don't remember if it was a hospital or it was like a 24-hour walk-in. But around 4 a.m., he came back. And the report was he had been bitten in the face by an animal because there was 2 perfect puncture marks. And for some reason, they couldn't stop the bleeding. They said there was some kind, and that's why they thought it was an animal bite, because they thought there was some kind of enzyme in there that kept it from bleeding or kept it from coagulating. We sat in the bottom part of the bar till 7:30 a.m. because we were terrified to leave. And that was probably in 95. And for some reason, I had just not thought about it. Because it's like when you think about something like that, it couldn't have happened, or maybe I saw something else, blah, blah, blah. But to this day, I still don't know what that was. I mean, I think I know what it was. And, I had been doing paranormal and cryptid investigations at that point for, a while. I mean, it's something I've been doing since I was a kid. But that was one of the sentinel events, shall I say, that I never really ever talked about. In fact, I don't think I've ever even talked about this with anyone. It's just between me and those guys that happened to. And I'll be honest with you, I've lost track with all of them except one. I don't know what happened to any of them. And I'm never going to give names. I mean, you can take this as you want. It doesn't matter to me. But it just, the only reason why I'm saying this is because it reminds me of something you said earlier. Like, you just start to remember stuff that you tried forgetting about, or you didn't think was important, or you just kind of delete it, or and you put it in the realm of there's no way that could have happened. Maybe I imagined it's something different, or maybe it was a dream that you thought was reality. You know, it's been a long time since that happened,
Right.
but I remember it pretty well.
So
That's something you don't forget.
what do you think happened? What's your thoughts on it?
You know what? That is a different podcast. I don't think I want to go into that. That's something you and I will talk about off air. But that's something. And again, take it or leave it. You know, it might have happened. It might not have happened. Maybe I'm remembering something different. I don't think I am. But I remember it pretty much happening exactly that way.
It'd be hard to forget something like that.
Well, you give it enough, you repress things enough, you know, maybe you get lucky and you forget them for a while. But
I'll tell you what.
I remember, and pretty much that was the last weekend we all worked. We all quit.
I never had anything that interesting happen when I was bound.
That was an interesting time. That was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because there was a few other things that happened after that. I'll tell you about that when we're not recording. But that was some crazy things. There's some crazy stuff that happened down there. Well, that said, Tiny, I think that's all the time we have. Just remember, we want to thank everyone for listening to Beyond Fringe. If you have a story or you want to be a guest on the show, please contact us at beyondfringe001@gmail.com or 828-407-0046. Tiny, do you have anything to say? Anything you want to add?
Man, I just want to thank everybody out there that's listening for joining the conversation. And, you know, hit us up, questions, comments, stories, information that we don't have. If you think we got something wrong, let us know. But
you can do that in a nice way too. You don't have to tell us we're idiots.
Right.
We know where we are in the world. We're secure with where we are.
Yeah, exactly. And we talk about some out there stuff. And
keep in mind, we're open-minded. So if we're doing something wrong, please, if you have an idea for a show, let us know. I can tell you that we have some very, very cool stuff planned in the next couple of weeks. I think, Tiny, would you agree on that?
Oh yeah.
I think we've got a surprise coming up for some. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people that we were able to pull this one off, and you know what I'm talking about. Because sometimes I'm still surprised we're getting that done.
Yes, sir.
Well, my friends, I am the Cryptid Guy. Ty and I would really like to thank you for listening. And remember, my friends, knowledge is power. And the only way to defeat the intentional veil of darkness that surrounds us all, to battle the ignorance that shackles us to the hatred and the despair, and restore the balance, is to let the light in. So remember, always let there be light in your life and keep believing. Thank you for listening.